What's up, Raider Nation? All I want for my birthday is for you to hit that subscribe button and bonus points to the people out there who can guess how old I just turned. What's up, y'all? You're watching the Raiders Report here on Chat Sports. Mitchell Renz, and coming up, I got the top 25 free agents that the Las Vegas Raiders could target, this time on the offensive side of the football. Coming in here at number 25, Garrett Bradbury, solid center for the Minnesota Vikings last season in 12 games, allowed 2 sacks. Also, the way that I have these positions ranked is based on how talented the player is, how much of a team need it is for the Raiders, and how much I believe it's going to cost the Silver and Black. Now, wide receiver to me, we obviously have Davante Adams. There is a need, though, because Matt Collins is an option, and I kind of ask people, do you just bring back somebody like Matt Collins who also gives you some special teams ability? Or, yeah, spoiler alert, I'm just going to throw the 4 biggest name wide receivers in free agency right here because to me, yes, finding another wide receiver is important, but I'm hoping Hunter Renfrow is back, and I'm hoping, realistically, whoever this other receiver is your 4th option in terms of catching the football. Maybe even after Jacobs, he's your 5th option. So when you talk about Michael Thomas, Odell Beckham Jr., JuJu Smith-Schuster, and Jakobi Meyers, the reason why Meyers is ranked number 21 on my list is because he does have some connections with Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler. Plus, on top of that, he's more reliable. For me, if I'm looking for somebody who I can pair with Davante, who can be that other option next to Renfrow, who can be somebody else that takes some pressure off of Waller and Jacobs, I want reliability. If you're telling me right now I can get, 17 games from Michael Thomas and OBJ, they would easily be the guys I would pick. The problem is they can't get their ass on the field and they can't stay healthy. And JuJu, yeah, he just won a Super Bowl, but I can't take JuJu. He is such a diva, and a lot of receivers are divas. But Jakobi Meyers at number 21 is going to cost a lot. The more and more I think about the receiver position, I'd be more than okay with the Raiders just bringing back a guy like Matt Collins or, I don't know, man, maybe Nelson Aguilar on a cheap little deal. Now, we are talking about the offensive side of the football, but that's because I did put out a video earlier in this week called Raiders Free Agent Targets, but this time is the top 25 players on the defensive side of the football. We know that the Raiders have more needs on D, so if you're like, Mitch, why are we talking about offense again? It's probably because you missed this video over here. So we just talked about wide receivers, and watch this again. Bang! We're going to go from 20, 19, 18, 17, a lot of tight ends. Darren Waller's your number 1. Foster Moreau, though, he's the tight end, too, and I don't really anticipate the Raiders spending a lot of money on the second tight end position, but it is an important position in McDaniels' offense. With all 4 of these guys that you see up on screen, I do think that they're all going to cost north of $10 million per year. To me, the one that's going to cost the most is probably Dalton Schultz, but he's one of the guys that I want the least. If you're looking for another good pass catcher, it's probably Mike Gesicki. The best all-around tight end on this list is Austin Hooper, who did struggle a little bit with the Cleveland Browns, but the real question is, do you bring back Foster Moreau, do you just draft somebody, or do you go out and you sign a big name? Tight end, though, I had to put these 4 guys on the list because they are top 25 offensive free agents. Coming in next here at number 16 on our top list for free agents for the Raiders to target, Cameron Fleming at offensive tackle. When you look at Fleming, last season, you're going to see 7 sacks allowed. Wow, Mitch, that's a high number. And you're right. Putting him over at right tackle could be a little bit worrisome for some people out there, but it is a need. When you look at the Raiders' offensive line, I would say Colt Miller, locked and loaded. Dylan Parham, locked and loaded. Besides that, anything could happen. The Raiders could move on from Andre James. I hope the Raiders move on from Alex Bars. And then Jermaine Eluemunor, he's also a free agent, but don't worry, you're going to see him coming up here in the show in just a little bit. Now, today's free agency targets is presented by Athletic Greens. And if you haven't already, go to athleticgreens.com/chat sports because, well, they're sponsoring today's show. I take AG1 by Athletic Greens literally every day. Get comprehensive, convenient daily nutrition at athleticgreens.com/chat sports. I gave AG1 a try because I wanted immune system support and wanted a supplement that actually tastes great. I take AG1 in the morning and it makes me feel ready to take on my day. My grandma, shout out to Grams, always said that the early bird gets the worm, and AG1 inspires and motivates me to get as many worms as possible every day. AG1 really helps me getting my day started. I mean, shit, we've been around some of these shows. Y'all kill me sometimes. Getting out of bed, it ain't easy. And I'm a person who likes and needs a routine, so AG1 helps me stick to my healthy routine. Wake up early, take my AG1, take Chuck for a walk, and then hit the gym before work. Covering my nutritional basis for the daily literally couldn't be easier, which is why I trust Athletic Greens. I just mix 1 small scoop of AG1 with water and drink it first thing each morning. Done. Simple. I also like that it costs only $3 a day. It's pretty good if you ask me. It's a really effective daily habit with the highest quality sourced ingredients. It is a win-win. If a comprehensive solution is what you need for your supplement routine, then Athletic Greens is giving you a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. So y'all go to athleticgreens.com/chatsports. That's athleticgreens.com/chatsports. Check it out. It's going to be in the comments and in the description of today's video. I also say this, if here on the Raiders Report, we party hard. It's also important to take care of yourself. And now that I'm getting up there in age, it's definitely important to take my AG1. Let's go to number 15 here on my list. It's Will Hernandez. And will Hernandez be a competent offensive lineman? I don't know. It's a terrible joke, but hey, sometimes that's what you're going to get. I've seen Hernandez play pretty solid. I've also seen him not play very great, so it depends which guy you're going to get. At number 14, it's Kelvin Beachum. In terms of being one of the best bang-for-your-buck right tackles in the NFL, it's Beachum. He has played over 1,000 snaps for, I believe, 5 straight seasons. At 6'3", 308 pounds, he's been a solid right tackle for Arizona. If you've watched this show before, you'll know that I like Beachum a lot, and I think that you can get him for like $4 million a year, which would be cheaper than the next guy on this list, who is number 13, Jermaine Eluemunor. Some people think number 13, it's an unlucky number. If the Raiders are able to bring back Jermaine, I would really, really like that. And it's because he's been a good fit with Carmen Bricillo. He was previously on the New England Patriots with Carmen Bricillo. And then this past season is coming off probably his best year as a pro. He did struggle at times early on in the season, but realistically, he got better and better as the year went on. And when you think of all the, I'm going to say this in a nice way, below average right guards that the Raiders had and Eluemunor's playing next to him, man, you got to tip your cap to him even a little bit more. He's a great follow on Twitter, and I do actually hope that the Raiders are able to bring him back because even if he doesn't play right tackle, he can also play left guard, he can play right guard. He is a great all-around offensive lineman. Let's go to number 12 here, and it's Isaiah Wynn. This is a project, and this is another one where you're hoping that Carmen Bricillo can go back into his bag. That's the Raiders' offensive line coach. Isaiah Wynn this past season is coming off the worst year of his entire career. So, Mitch, why would you want the Raiders to get him? Because when Isaiah Wynn had Carmen Bricillo as his offensive line coach, he was probably trending in the right direction to be one of the better right tackles in the National Football League. I get it. It's a risk. But Wynn, if I was him, I'd want to go play with the Raiders, and I'd want to go play with Carmen Bricillo, so you might be willing to take a little bit less money. We'll see. Let's go to number 11 here. It's Dalton Risner. He knows the AFC West. He's a tough dude out of Kansas State. 15 games, 3 sacks allowed, and even though my buddy, who would kill me for saying this because my buddy who now is expecting a baby, shout out to Blake, his girlfriend, that's her ex-boyfriend. But hey, we're not going to get into that. He is a really good offensive lineman, and he's going to be a really solid guy who you can pound up the middle with. You know what I'm talking about. All right, before we get into our top 10 list, what does the Raiders' biggest team need on the offensive side of the football? Is it probably quarterback? And some of you are like, where are all the quarterbacks? I'm not going to put quarterbacks in this video because, honestly, man, I don't really know what I want the Raiders to do at the quarterback position. But you could also say offensive line. I think there's a little bit more offensive line as well. Let's go to number 10 here, Ben Powers at center. I've been a believer, and I've said to all of y'all that there is a legitimate chance that the Raiders move on from Andre James because they can save over $5 million, and James has done an okay job being the center, but he's not tied to anything. And the Raiders, this staff is not the team that gave him the contract extension that he got. And the fact that he's a little bit undersized, that doesn't typically go with what Carmen Bricillo looks for in his offensive line. So let's look at Ben Powers, much bigger, 6'4", 310 pounds. Last season with the Baltimore Ravens, 17 games played, 0 sacks allowed. I would love to see Ben Powers in a silver and black uniform. Somebody who I'd even like to see more, Ethan Pocic. This is your top center in this year's free agency class, if you will. He's a big guy. He's a big dude, and I do think one of the biggest reasons why Cleveland is year in and year out have one of the most solid offensive lines is probably the way I'm going to put it, is because of Pocic. You need to have a good anchor in the middle. The best Raiders offensive lines that I can remember, again, I'm not that old, is with Rodney Hudson. When Rodney Hudson was the best center in the NFL, that offensive line for the Silver and Black was elite. I'm not saying Pocic is on the same realm of Rodney Hudson at that time, but the center position is obviously a very important one. Let's go to number 8 here. It's Nate Davis, another solid offensive guard. Last season for the Tennessee Titans, 3 sacks allowed, 12 games played, really good run blocker, and I do think if you have the plan of bringing back Josh Jacobs, having more solid guards is important, and also the fact that you have Dylan Parham, his flexibility to play either guard spot and to play center does help out a guy like Nate Davis. Let's go to number 7 here. It's Andre Dillard. I am a lot higher on Andre Dillard than there's going to be a lot of people out there because he hasn't played much. He was drafted in the first round back in the 2019 draft, number 26 overall, and he was a tackle. Unfortunately for him, the Philadelphia Eagles found a few diamonds in the rough on O-line. This past year, he did get some run, and he was drafted as a tackle. But he did play as an offensive guard. So to me, I have seen that Dillard has the ability to play tackle. I would kick him over to right tackle. But he also has the ability to play guard. And for somebody who's just trying to get their feet in terms of being a starter again, I'm really curious to see what this young man goes for because he's got legit talent. At number 6 here on my list, it's Orlando Brown Jr. I'm going to be real with y'all. I'm going to be a lot lower on Orlando Brown than a lot of people out there because, to me, he's really overrated. And I'll say it right now. 17 games, 4 sacks allowed. On top of that, he's going to be the most expensive player on this list. I think Orlando Brown's going to cost somewhere north of $20 million a year. When he was with the Baltimore Ravens, he wanted to leave there because he was worried that they weren't going to give him his money. And now he's going over to Kansas City. I get it. They just won a Super Bowl. When you actually, though, turn on the tape and when you actually watch Orlando Brown, he's not coming off that good of a year. So I'm really surprised that PFF has him as high as they do. Now, we still got our top 5 coming up here, but remember, you can always interact with me on Twitter at MitchellRenz365 to stay up to date on everything going on around the Raiders. You want to see what I'm doing this weekend or what I did this weekend? It's over on Instagram, and then hang out with even more diehard Raider fans over on Locals. It's Raidersport.locals.com. So we got some potential free agent quarterbacks, and I decided not to rank these guys because QBs always get ranked higher based on their position, and there's no secret. So to me, I believe the top 3 quarterbacks most likely that the Raiders sign in free agency. At number 1, it's Jimmy Garoppolo. At number 2, it's Jacoby Brissett. Both of these guys have experience with Dave Ziegler and McDaniels. And then Jarrett Stidham. You could just re-sign him. To me, if you want to take a rookie quarterback and have him learn behind Stidham, it is an option. Also, though, to me, if you take Stidham, probably means you're going to be bad. And that means hopefully you get somebody like Caleb Williams or Drake May next season. Let's get into my top 5 now. I'm going to go with Kaleb McGary, who's coming off his best season as a pro. And depending on what you value, if you want a really good run blocker, McGary's your guy. If you're hoping for a little bit better pass blocker, he's probably not your dude. So if you want to be able to run a run-first offense like the Atlanta Falcons did, McGary's your guy. He's going to get his bag, too. So, which I don't really blame him. I also know that Barcillo does like big offensive linemen, 6'6", 306 pounds. Definitely an intriguing prospect to keep in mind. Let's go to number 4 here, Jawaan Taylor. I do not think Jawaan Taylor is better than McGary, and I do not think Jawaan Taylor is better than Orlando Brown. But I do think he's going to come at a much cheaper price. I'm going to sit somewhere between $12, $13 million for him. He's a good tackle. He's been consistent. He's had better years in the past, but I am trying to save a little bit of money. At number 3, and I'm going to be real with y'all, if we can get any of these next 3 guys on our team next season, I'm going to be ecstatic. And personally, the guy that I think I would focus on the most besides the next guy on our list, it would be Isaac Seumalo because to me, he's a great guard. I don't remember what video it was, but I made a video 2 years ago. It was a trade video, and I begged the Raiders to go out and trade for this guy because I watched him. I scouted him. I know he's a really good offensive guard, and he would really help out the Raiders' interior offensive line. At number 2, it's Josh Jacobs, and I put him here at number 2 because I do think the guy at number 1, if you told me, hey, can I get number 2 or number 1, obviously I would take number 1. But Jacobs, to me, is a phenomenal running back. I hope he doesn't even hit the free agency market. I'm hoping that the Raiders just franchise tag him. He is the best running back in the NFL right now. Let's go to number 1, though. It's Mike McGlinchey. He's the top offensive tackle in my book. If you were telling me right now we pair McGlinchey and Colt Miller at your tackle spots, if the Raiders are smart, those are your tackles for the next 5, 6, 7 years, and you just keep on giving them extensions. Because at 6'8", 310 pounds, Taylor gets a lot of concentration from the 49ers. Trent Williams, excuse me. McGlinchey on the other side of that football, though, is really almost just as good. Now, he's phenomenal. McGlinchey is also really, really solid. 17 games, 6 sacks allowed last season. I don't necessarily know if the Raiders are going to spend that much money on tackle because it's $18 million. But if you were to ask me in terms of overall team needs and overall how good a player is, I do think McGlinchey would be number one. So I want you now to name a free agent on offense you want the Raiders to sign. I would imagine a lot of y'all are going to type Josh Jacobs, which I don't blame you whatsoever. I want the Raiders to bring back Josh as well at $10.1 million on a franchise tag. Besides Jacobs, though, give me another name to keep in mind. If you want me to roll through this list one more time, I am going to do it. Remember that our top 25 free agents is presented by Athletic Greens. So if you haven't already, go to athleticgreens.com/chatsports. Whether you're looking for an offensive lineman, a wide receiver, a tight end, I hope that this list was a good one that you could just kind of wrap your mind around in terms of, all right, if the Raiders go in certain directions, then these are the players that they could go with. Obviously, one of the biggest indicators is who the Raiders have at quarterback. Will it be Aaron Rodgers? Will it be Jimmy Garoppolo? Are they going to say, no, we're not going to do any of that. We're just going to wait for a guy in the draft? That can really change these rankings. But as it stands right now, I believe these are the top 25 free agents that Dave Ziegler and Josh McDaniels should target this offseason.